Hello and welcome back to Elden Ring. This is part 28 of the run where we prepare for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. In this run, we will go through every weapon, shield, armor set, talisman, spirit ash, physic tier, and cookbook that you will need no matter what build you are creating. Last time we went through the Erdtree, also known as Alfael, however you pronounce it. And this time we are starting at Forge of the Giants, where we can sit down, and I did this after, so you're gonna see some things from Crumbling, Farum, Azula, but I forgot to do it at the time, so here we are. All the things we got in the Erdtree. Lots of smithing stones. We got Loretta's Mastery as a sorcery. We got Triple Rings of Light as an incantation. We also got Black Flame's Protection, which you can get from telling Sir Gideon about the Erdtree. We also got the Rotten Crystal Sword, the Michelin Knight Sword, the Rotten Staff, Loretta's War Sickle. We showed where to get a pretty decent Great Shield. We also got Traveler's Set. And we got the Viridian Amber Medallion +2 for maximum stamina. We got Marika's Sword Seal. We got the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman. We also got Pearl Drake Talisman +2. Phlox Canvas Talisman for ending Gowry's quest, along with a Rotten Winged Sword Insignia for finishing Millicent's quest by helping her. Though again, you can challenge her, and you get a different reward for that. So, with that being said, we can talk to Melina.
I have this world and death. Are you to commit? Very well, let my hand.
Even though we didn't get a title pop-up, this is Crumbling Farum Azula, the area we are going to be making our way through today. So we start out on this bridge, and all the way at the end here, you can get a Smithing Stone 8. And dropping down, you can get a Golden Rune 9. And heading through this doorway, you can get the title pop-up. Before continuing down into this section, which will get you the first combat encounter for the area. Again, great swords are kind of busted. Great shields are pretty strong. Great shields with great swords doing guard counters, very busted. And at one point, that combo was buffed, and it baffles me to no end. I'm glad that FromSoft did it, because it is something that I use a lot. And I hope that it doesn't get nerfed, because again, it is something that I use a lot. But doesn't stop me from being baffled that they did it, even if I am happy that they did it. Though getting through there, Off to the left here, there's a Site of Grace. And here is a summoning pool in case you need help. And you may have noticed that you actually can't teleport. Well, once you sit down, rest at a Site of Grace, then you can. So you need to make it to at least there before you can leave and head to a different location. Though here, we can drop down, we can move forward. Here there's a smithing stone 6 and a big old dragon. There's also a smithing stone 8 there. And there is another item in the background, which I forgot to grab, so sorry about that. But bringing the dragon down, you get an ancient dragon smithing stone. And again, I forgot to pick up the final item. So, whoops. But moving forward, you can get a smithing stone 8 and another Site of Grace. Here, there's another summoning pool in case you need help, along with a smithing stone 7. And here you can go up onto this rooftop, or you can go down. We are going to be going up first, since that gets you some items. Nothing too special, except for a Great Grave Glowwort, which lets you turn any normal Spirit Ash from +9 to the maximum upgrade of +10. And from there, we can make our way back down and start heading the way of progress. There, you may have noticed, I got smacked, but because of the armor set I'm running, that has more than 51 poise, I was able to just tank it. So, having a pretty defensive armor set is very good with this build. So there is a Golden Rune 12, and then another room of enemies. But also the Ancient Dragon Prayer Book, which we will be able to look at once we get rid of all the enemies in this room. So, that prayer book we got lets you purchase Ancient Dragon's Lightning Spear and Ancient Dragon's Lightning Strike, which the Dragon Cult prayer book gotten all the way back in Illyria lets you get Lightning Spear. So this is a better version of that. Then here, there's a Site of Grace, and from there, you can turn around because in the opposite side of this room, there's a doorway along with an elevator that leads down. And you may want to put on one of these talismans to give you increased death blight resistance. as there are going to be some enemies that have Death Blight coming up. And that is the status effect that instantly kills you if the bar fills up. So having a good amount of resistance to that is going to be useful. Here there's a Smithing Stone 8 and another big dragon. This one doesn't get you anything, so you can fight it if you enjoy fighting them, or you can just move on as all they give you are runes. And they can't follow you. Once you jump over the rocks, they'll just disappear. From there, we can continue moving onwards, where this is where you'll start seeing the Deathblight enemies. Once again, greatswords are kind of busted. Once again, I really hope they don't get nerfed, because a lot of my builds rely on these things, and the incredible power that they hold. There you get a Somber Stone 9, and then even more enemies. From here, you can go up that way and go around to make it over to that side, or you can climb up this ladder. They both get you over there, but I personally take the ladder, as it also gets you a Smithing Stone 8. And you may have noticed I'm doing a lot of edits where I normally just let things play out without me talking. That's because this recording was an hour and 13 minutes, and I really like to get the recordings to under an hour. So if you find the edits jarring, I'm sorry. Please do let me know if you prefer me to edit things to cut the time down, or if you prefer me to leave things in order to make things progress more naturally. Though there, as you can see, there was a giant worm face, and defeating them lets you get a Smithing Stone 8, along with the Glowvort Picker's Bell-Bearing 3. This allows you to purchase Grave Glowworts 7, 8, and 9, allowing you to get any normal Spear Dash all the way up to +9. From there, we can head back to the Tempest facing balcony site of grace. This is the one just after the prayer book. From there, we can jump over that to get the Somberstone Miner's Bell-Bearing 4. This bell bearing allows us to purchase Somberstones 7 and 8. And there's a summoning pool here in case you need help. Then you can drop down where there will be another group of enemies. This one being a group of reskinned skeletons, basically. But taking them out gets you a Golden Rune 9 and a Somberstone 7. And from there, you can continue making your way down through the area, just continuing to make progress. Though down here, You may want to be careful as there are some difficult enemies. So we are just going to grab this Somber Stone 9 and continue along to get this Site of Grace. Though that doesn't mean we're going to ignore all the loot that's in this section, because we can turn around and jump down, and that brings us to the lower part of this section, where we can start going through the enemies. And as you can see there, I was like half health. That first big enemy I thought was the one here, but it was actually one of the ones up top. So, sitting down at the Site of Grace to kind of put all the enemies in their normal place is good. But again, great swords, great shields, great sword, great shield guard counters, very strong. Golden Rune 12, and I went from half health to full health. Again, this build is quite strong. Though continuing on, here there's a Golden Rune 10, and then you can start making your way up here, which is the path that lets you get back to the higher section. And it is important to remember that simply jumping does not get you very far at all. And if you're going to jump something, you should make sure that you're doing a run jump in order to get the proper distance. Because as you can see there, a normal jump didn't cut it. But a run jump will. So, make sure that you have your running shoes on before you make a jump. But continuing up to the top of the ladder, there's some more enemies. And here, there's some enemies kind of floating in the air or like strung up. And if you go to the back of the room to get the item, all three will drop down. And so, it's good to use like throwing knives or a bow or some kind of ranged attack to knock them down before. But there you get another great grave glowwort. And then you can take a few drops down here to make it back towards that Site of Grace. From this Site of Grace, there is another summoning pool in case you need help. And you can either go forward or you can go down. Forward is the normal way, so that's the path I'm going to be taking first. Where here you can get a Golden Rune 11, and you'll see that we are now into the realm of Banished Knights. So you should be careful as you can see, the Banished Knights here have both wind attacks and fire attacks. So do keep that in mind. Here you can get a Smithing Stone 6, and then you can continue moving on. from here, you can drop down into there for a boss fight, or you can continue on. Now here, if you look at our health, almost dead. You may think that this was just sloppy gameplay, which you are entirely... You can definitely believe that. Or, we can go with a second option, which is just remember how low my health bar was. Remember just how close to death I was. Because we'll come back to it in a minute. For now, we got a stone sword key. And then another enemy. Here, you get some dragon wound grease, and you may notice we're at full health. We went from nearly dead to full health without a single flask of crimson tears. So you can think that that fight was sloppy gameplay, or you can think it was me showing off just how strong this build is. Because as I said, this is the build that I decided to show off for preparing for the Shadow of the Erdtree for a reason. This is a very survivable build, which I think is very important for going into a new game or new DLC where you don't know what you're getting yourself into and you want to be survivable. Because if you die, kinda hard to figure out where to dodge or when to dodge, what to shield, where to go, stuff like that. So, tanky, survivable builds are what I personally go for when going into a new game or new DLC. And, like I said, in my opinion, works very well. That's why I decided to show it off. Though, moving here, you get a golden rune 12. And then here is the boss fight room once again. Though we are going to head back to the previous site of grace, because as I mentioned before, there's two ways to go. So you can go the way we just did, or you can go this alternative path. And we can see what this path has in store for us. A rune arc being somewhat protected by a lone banished knight, though that is on an optional little side path, and this way brings us back into the path of progress. Here there's a banished knight, but there's a second banished knight hiding around the corner. So it's good to use some kind of ranged attack to lure this first one back over here, so you can get a proper one-on-one duel, instead of being stuck in a 1v2. Here, I got the Banished Knight Helm unaltered. For some reason, you can't alter them at Bach. For some reason. And this is, in my opinion, a pretty good one. So, it's a bit difficult to get because the unaltered, or because the altered version can't be turned into that normal version. So, bit rare to get. You can only get them from these guys, the ones who have the unaltered version. But it does go pretty well with a few different armor sets. Though there, we can get a Somber Stone 9. And up here, we can get the Azula Beastman Ashes, which I used in a New Game Plus run once. They're pretty good. They're like the endgame version of the Fanged Imp Ashes. So, good coordination, fairly aggressive, but they don't have too much health. Though there, as you can see, we got a second Site of Grace. And here you can summon the Recusant Bernal. As up here, there is a boss fight. This is the infamous Godskin duo. So, best of luck against them. So, once you take them out, you get over 100,000 runes, the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell-Bearing 4, and the Ash of War Black Flame Tornado. The Bell-Bearing lets you purchase Smithing Stones 7 and 8, letting you get any normal weapon all the way up to plus 24. And the Ash of War Black Flame Tornado can be put on halberds and twin blades, so a bit limited, but it is very powerful. And then here, a summoning pool in case you need help, and then you can continue on down the path. There you can get a Golden Rune 11. And slightly hidden around this corner, you can get a Hero's Rune 5. Then from there, you can continue forward where you'll run into one of these enemies. And as you can see, their weapon is one of the larger weapons. And I actually used that in a run. I was able to get it very early, and I've heard a lot of people hate on it, but it is an incredible weapon. One of the best normal weapons, in my opinion, and people mostly just hate on it because of how late you get it. Though, as you can see there, we got a Smithing Stone 7 and 5 Lightning Grease, with lightning being the best damage type in Elden Ring. So from there, we can head up these stairs and continue making our way through the area. Where here, you will be able to get an ancient dragon smithing stone before moving on. Where around this corner, there will be a stone sword key door, which I would very much recommend getting, as it gets you access to this elevator, and heading up gets you a Site of Grace. Don't forget to level up, as the enemies in this area give a lot of runes. From there, there's a summoning pool in case you need help. And then some enemies here. And while these first two enemies are complete pushovers, these enemies, the ones that are a bit bigger with the glaives, are much tougher. A large part of that being because of their extremely high poise. And they're pretty decent damage along with high health and fire attacks. So a lot going for them to make them quite dangerous. Alone, they're very much manageable, but when there's two of them, then they can really cover for each other. And normally, these lengthier combat encounters I just skip for the sake of time, but I decided to show this one because these enemies tend to be a bit difficult, or this section tends to be a bit difficult because there's two of them, but this build is very strong and can very much manage them. There, you get a Lord's Rune, and here you can go left and down, or you can go right and up towards that golden tree. I'm going to be heading left and down for the sake of showing the majority of the items. Not all, but most of the ones that are helpful. So here, there's a tree full of enemies, and once you take that entire group of enemies out, you get a golden rune 12. And then you can continue up where there's another tree with hanging enemies, though this one has a lot less enemies. And you get a smithing stone 8 here. Here you get a rune arc and a golden seed. And this is where you would have ended up if you had gone down the right path. Though there, as you can see, there was a way to go up, which if you just care about the big things, like the major items and making progress, you can skip this lower section and just head up. But again, for the sake of showing all the useful items that are good for every build, I'm going to be making my way down through this section where there was some dragon wound grease, and as you can see there's a dragon. So here there's also golden lightning fortification and a smithing stone 8. So taking out the dragon, they give you a few gravel stone. And the thing we picked up, golden lightning fortification, greatly increases lightning resistance. Which, as I said before, lightning damage is the best damage type in Elden Ring. So, may be good to have that. And here, again, make sure that you're actually sprinting before making a jump, since if you take a running jump and then jump immediately after, even if you held the run button down the entire time, it's still just a normal jump, which doesn't get you nearly as far. Though here, if you've been doing his quest up to this point, you'll find the warrior jar Alexander.
Ah, the city had that aside. I doubt that. Of course. Which mean, would you kindly come and tell me? I've been long. You are ready? Then let us begin.
I am the great Jar Warrior, Iron Fist Alexander. Lend me strength, O warriors within. Let us become one champion together.
My thanks. I knew you were the stuff of champions. It was a marvelous battle. I implore you, take what I bequeath from inside me. All vessels are destined to one day break. But the great Alexander lived as a warrior to his last.
That gets you Shard of Alexander and Alexander's Innards. Shard of Alexander is a talisman that greatly boosts the power of skills, which skills are very important in Elden Ring, much more than in the previous games, so that is a very popular talisman. And Alexander's Innards are a key item that you can give to the NPC in Jarburg to finish their quest. Though before doing that, we can continue on this path, which gets us a Golden Rune 12 and a Smithing Stone 7. Coming up here, inside of this broken gazebo, that purple item is a cookbook. It is the Ancient Dragon Cookbook 4, which gets you the Ancient Dragon Bolt pot. Though, there's also there's a few enemies hiding around there, waiting to ambush you. So for the sake of time, I'm going to be skipping it, getting us a Somber Stone 8 and a normal Smithing Stone 8. Then from there, you can head off to Jarburg, where you can give Alexander's Innards to the NPC here, once you've fully done their and Dialis' quest lines, which will then get you the Companion Jar, a talisman that raises the potency of throwing pots. This would be like Fire Pot, Red Maiden Fire Pot, Giant's Flame Fire Pot, Poison Pot, Fetid Pot, Freezing Pot, Volcano Pot, the Ancient Dragon Bolt Pot that we just skipped, and a few others that I pointed out but didn't grab, like the Lightning Pot. So, if you're a big fan of crafting items, then that may be useful. From there, we can head back to this site of grace, the one that required the Stone Sword key, and then we can make our way back down. Down the stairs, you can head through that doorway, and turning around here, you can get the Dragon Crest Shield Talisman +2. And a Golden Rune 12. The talisman isn't as good as the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman we got from Miquella's Erdtree, but it is the best version besides that. Now here, there's some items there, there's some items up there, but nothing too special. It's just consumable items, so if you want to do that, you can. For the sake of time, I'm going to be continuing on. And as you can see there is a knight, a Crucible Knight, protecting a Smithing Stone 8. Though they don't drop anything besides runes upon dying, so if you really like to fight them, you can. For the sake of time, I'm going to be continuing on. Where here, there's a Set of Grace, and then dropping down, this is a section that many people will know, as it is full of birds, which are commonly hated enemies. Though here, you can get a Smithing Stone 6, and a Summoning Pool, and there's also a dragon that shoots down red lightning, making this path even more perilous. Though, Great Shields do make the birds a bit more manageable, I will say. Though dropping down here and off to the left, make sure to jump that and not roll it, which I almost did and probably would have resulted in death. But dropping down and heading all the way to this corner, there's a chest that grants you the Drake Knight armor set. From there, you can take this elevator up and you can roll out right about here, and then you can make your way all the way down to take out the dragon, granting you an ancient dragon smithing stone. Here there's also a Golden Rune 12, and then if you look around, you may spot a gazebo with a golden item, being an ancient somber stone. From there, if you head north, then you can find this little section. And personal note, I would suggest against this, since there's only 2 items here. The first being a golden seed, which you should almost certainly have all of your flasks by now, and a Smithing Stone 7, which at this point you've defeated the Godskin duo, letting you buy as many 7s as you want. Though, I feel like I had to show it, just to cover all the important items. But from there, you can see we took a drop down, and it leads to a series of drops that you can take. And there are some gravel stones sprinkled about, but since they're just crafting items, it's not something I'm going to focus on getting every single one of. Instead, we are just going to continue on in order to make progress through the area. Past the bird, you can get a Golden Rune 12, and then you can head up the ladder. Up here there will be 2 banished knights, one with a halberd patrolling the area, and one with twin greatswords. Now, the one with the halberd there as I said, patrols, whereas the greatsword one just stands there. So it is good to lure the halberd one back here so you can fight them in a one-on-one. After taking them out, you will gain free access to this chest, which gets you the Dragon Tower Shield. This is a great shield, and while it is not the best, it is one of the best. As you can see, compared to the Golden Great Shield, it has better magic and fire, but worse lightning, holy, guard boost, and slightly higher weight. Though, all of these shields are very good, and so when the shields are this good, it's less about individual stats and more about just aesthetics. At least the way I see it, because as you can see there, the Dragon Tower Shield has 10 higher guard boost, with guard boost being the main stat for a shield. So, Icon Shield has 10 lower guard boost, but I still use it because it's still good, along with the passive HP regeneration. So while all of these shields are very good, and they do have some variation, as I said, the main deciding factor when you're going with shields this good is mainly just the aesthetics. From here, as you can see, there's a group of enemies fighting a Crucible Knight. The Crucible Knight just drops runes, so if you really like the fight, you can fight him. If you're just here for the items and the goodies and the rewards and the loot and the whatnot, you can skip them. And here, you can get the Bolt Drake Talisman +2. This is the talisman that gives you the highest amount of lightning damage negation. And then this drop puts you back onto the path towards the lightning dragon. This opening, or this open area, is where you fought the lightning dragon. And from there, heading southwest or just to the right, you can then continue making progress. Down here, you can get a Somber Stone 7. And off over here, you can take a series of drops down over to that thing just above our head. And that will allow you to fight the optional boss, Dragon Lord Placidusax. Though, partially for the sake of time, and partially because something you will see in a minute, I'm going to be continuing to move forward And for the second reason, I would suggest that you continue to move forward as well, instead of fighting the boss immediately. So taking out this room of enemies, you can get the Somberstone Miner's Bell Bearing 5. This allows you to purchase Somber Smithing Stone 9s, allowing you to get special weapons all the way up to +9. From there, you can make your way forward and up this elevator. At the top of this elevator is the Site of Grace. This is the second reason. So if you wish to fight Dragon Lord Placidus X, you can go do that now, having gotten the Site of Grace. So, moving forward, there is a summoning pool in case you need help, and here you can go up or down this bridge. I go the way of progress last, so down the bridge first. Here you can get a Somber Smithing Stone 8, and then you can take this drop down here. And heading into here, if you've been doing his quest up to this point, which you should know that you've done it if you were able to summon him for the Godskin duo, you'll be invaded by the Knight, or you could say Recusant Bernal. Bringing him down gets you the Blasphemous Claw, which is a reusable consumable item here, which acts as a parry to some of Malekith's attacks. Kind of like the Silver Pendant in Dark Souls 1. You also get the Devoured Scepter, which is a strength, dexterity, faith-based great hammer with physical and fire damage. You also get to the Beast Champion set, one of the heavier, more defensive sets. And the chest piece starts out altered, but if you unalter it, it becomes one of my favorite armor sets in the game. Though it is quite heavy, so do be mindful of that. Here, there's another room with some enemies. Taking them out gives you access to this chest with the Old Lord's Talisman. This extends the duration of sorceries and incantations, so weapon buffs like Electrify Armament work very well with that. From there, we can head back to the Site of Grace, where instead of going down the bridge, we can instead head up the bridge. Up here is the boss of the area, but before the boss is a Golden Rune 12, a mini-boss in the form of the Draconic Tree Sentinel, along with a Somber Stone 7. Bringing down the Draconic Tree Sentinel gets you 28,000 runes and the Malformed Dragon armor set. And then here is the boss for the area, Garank Beast Clergyman, also known as Malekith the Black Blade. Though defeating him changes the world state of Landel, which I'm not going to be doing on this character, so I will not be doing this boss on this character. So we'll stop it here, where we can look at what we got. We got the Devourer's Scepter. We got the Dragon Tower Shield. We got the Drake Knight armor set, the Beast Champion armor set, and the Malformed Dragon armor set. We also got the Dragon Crest Shield Talisman +2, the Bolt Drake Talisman +2, we got the Old Lord's Talisman, we got the Companion Jar and Shard of Alexander, finishing out their quest lines. We also got the Spirit Ash for the Azula Beastmen, and we also got some smithing stones, especially some ancient smithing stones, along with some golden seeds, along with the bell bearings for smithing stones 7 and 8, the bell bearing for somber stones 7, 8, and 9, and the bell bearing for grave glowwort 7, 8, and 9, along with the ancient dragon prayer book. So very good progress today. Again, in this run we will go through every single weapon, shield, armor set, talisman, spirit ash, physic tier, and cookbook that you will need to prepare for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, no matter what build you are creating. I hope you continue to follow me through on this. Only a few more parts to go. With that being said, yeah.